Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Dylan Talk Sports. My name is Dylan. In this video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. I'm going to be reacting to the Cleveland Browns game against the Arizona Cardinals where we absolutely put the ass whooping on them. Score was 27-0. It was a complete blowout. The Cardinals, there was a lot of crazy stats we need to discuss, like the defense holding the Cardinals to the lowest amount of yards when it comes to pass, run, and special teams since 1955. The defense plays amazing. Deshaun Watson slowly kind of got back to his old self. All in all, it was a well-rounded win. So I'm going to kind of go through and break down the game from my point of view of how I thought the game went. Little things that we're kind of going to discuss. We're going to go over the defense, a lot about the defense. We're going to kind of go over Deshaun Watson and the offense, and then we'll kind of also maybe discuss a little bit of special teams. So without further ado, as always, if you're going to enjoy today's video, make sure you do drop a like. And without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so like we said, 27-0. This game was up and down, but at the very beginning, in the first half, it was very slow. I was kind of looking at this game like, are we really about to play around and somehow make this game interesting? But ultimately, by the second half, we were able to just kind of cruise to a victory. The first half, it was back and forth. Deshaun Watson had a lot of very ugly throws. I mean, not a lot of very ugly throws. There were throws that were behind. There were throws that were low. We tried to go for it on 4th and 2 or 4th and 1 earlier on in the first quarter where we should have had it. I think it was Akins who tried to go for just like a little hitch route, and Watson ended up just missing the throw. But it seemed like with Watson, as the game kind of went on, he figured himself out, and he started to hit some big-time throws in the second half. When it comes to the defense really held their own. Now, by no means did I think the Cardinals were going to do anything in this game. No. They had Josh Dobbs there the past couple weeks who has been giving them some life, a little bit of happiness within their offense, but they traded him away to the Vikings a couple days ago for a draft pick. And I think the Cardinals had a thought of, oh, maybe we can get Kyler Murray back this week. He decided not to go, which I think was a smart idea because you don't really want to have your first game back coming off an ACL injury against the Browns defense. So they had to start a rookie Tune. He did his rookie thing. He looked like a rookie. That's the honest way to put it. I mean, you see the stats down here, 11 of 20, 58 yards, 2 touchdowns. As the game kind of went on, they were trying to run the ball. They were trying to get their run game working, which I don't blame them when it's a rookie. You're trying to just get the run game going, trying to get some screen games, some end arounds, some little sweep runs, tosses, anything to just kind of get the ball out of your hands so you're not getting the center of attention, getting sacked, getting hurt. And as the game went on, they had to start throwing the ball because they were down 13-0, 20-0. They had to start throwing the ball. And what happened? Sack City. It started from the very beginning of the game. Myles Garrett had a tip pass, could have been a sack. When they had him deep in their own end zone, Tune, he was running for his life, should have been a sack there. But then as the game went on, like I said, when it got to 20-0, when it got down to 27-0, Myles Garrett was getting sacked. Dalvin Tomlinson, he was getting sacks. Jordan Elliott, I think, also had a sack. All in all, I'll just wrap it up on the kind of the big picture point of view of this whole game with I think everybody played a really good game today when it comes to the Browns side, obviously. The only kind of small little things I would say is Deshaun, like I've been saying week on week on week. It feels like every time he goes out there, we're always just using the same excuse. He's knocking the rust off. He's knocking the rust off. How fucking rusty is he? Now that that's out of the way, let's kind of go through and break down each kind of category of the team and go from there. Let's start with special teams. Not really much to talk about. 2 things though, obviously with punting and kicking. Kicking, I don't really want to discuss too much. 2 field goals did go in, 1 field goal did not go in. I'm not really going to knock Dustin Hopkins too much on the missed field goal because the way it kind of hooked, it looked like it just like barely snuck up and over on the outside of the pole. So he can fix that. Came back, he fixed himself. He was making his extra points. That's the good thing. As long as you're making your extra points and making some of the shorter field goals, I got no problem. But with the punting, usually you don't really get excited for punters because you don't really want your punter out there. You want your offense to go score touchdowns all the time. Your punter, you almost want to play every single game as if the punter didn't come with us to the game, so we can't punt today. But when he was asked to be on the field, he delivered. Looking at the stats down here, we already said a minute ago, 2 of 3 for field goals on Dustin Hopkins. Like I said, he'll fix that. 45-yard was his longest. He got all his extra points. But when it comes to Corey Bojorquez, 7 punts, 410 yards, average of 58.6 yards. He was drilling them 2 inside the 20. He was kicking the shit out of that ball. And his longest punt of the day was that punt where I think the returner, he was like at the 15-yard line and he saw the ball going over his head. And I think like anybody else would say, if this ball is going over my head, I'm standing at like the 10, 15-yard line, I'm just going to get out of the way and let this ball cruise back for a touchback. And exactly what he did. He did that. The ball ended up bouncing at the 10, bouncing at the 5, but then it stayed kind of not moving. And the Gunners from the Browns were able to put this ball down at like the 1-yard line. And then the last bit of special teams I kind of want to talk about, James Prochet II. He had 6 returns for 55 yards, longest of 17 yards. I don't know if this is right or not. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. but he's on a practice squad type contract. He was just picked up. He's not on an official Cleveland Browns contract. We need to sign him now. From what I know is we signed him right after Donovan Peoples-Jones was traded over to the Lions. He is on a smaller contract right now because he's a practice squad player. We need to sign him to be a returner, because the one thing he brings as a returner is he brings that burst where after he catches it, he's not slowly kind of running around a corner. He can like take it, whether it's at the 10-yard line or the 50-yard line. And if the guys are all coming kind of at him and there's a little gap in the center, he can just burst right through there and go get about 10-15 yards. And I think the Browns really need that kind of a returner on their punt team, because a lot of times all the returns we've been trying in the past, they all try to do this long run all the way up and around and it never works. We need somebody that could just look at the center, find the gap, and just go. Okay, now let's talk about the defense. I know I said earlier I was going to be on this for a while, but there's not really much to talk about if you watch the game. But if you didn't watch the game, like I said earlier, the defense smothered the Cardinals. Smallest amount of yards since 1955 is, I think, the year that they said. I mean, hell, let's look at the numbers here that the Browns were able to accumulate. Grant Delpit, 10 tackles, 8 solo tackles, half a sack, a tackle for loss, a quarterback hit. He was a dog. Dalvin Tomlinson, 2.5 sacks, 2 solo tackles, 4 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits. Zadarius Smith, he actually got a sack right at the end of the game. He almost didn't get the sack. He kind of just went able to pad his stats with that sack at the end of the game. It was kind of nice to watch. He also got 2 tackles for loss and the 2 quarterback hits. You can't forget Myles Garrett. He got himself a tackle. He got himself a sack as well. But when you look down here at these numbers, 7 sacks, 7 tackles for loss. Look at it again. 10 pass deflections, 8, 10 quarterback hits. Tune, you are a rookie. And you looked like a rookie because you were getting pushed around. We also got a bunch of turnovers. Sione Takitaki, he had an interception. Denzel Ward, he had an interception. That interception by Ward, holy crap. That dude, he had to contort his body and snatch that sucker out of the air and go to the ground. It wasn't like a crazy interception, like he had to jump the route or anything. The ball was thrown to Denzel Ward. It was just the angle he was at. He had to kind of contort his body to get up to it. Pick the Takitaki got, that one, he had to kind of jump the route. And then the other turnover that they had, I think it was Shelby Harris. He kind of like slapped the ball. He got up around the corner, slapped the ball out of Tune's hand. Myles Garrett, he was standing there, and he ended up grabbing the ball, go to the ground. It was fumble recovery. So all in all, a well-rounded game from this entire Cleveland Browns defense. Now, 2 things that kind of I'm going to go into, but they did a little bit, I'm going to say a little bit, help into the Browns defense being able to just absolutely bully the Cardinals. First up, I'm not going to really talk about it too much, but referees did kind of help just a teensy little bit for the Browns. And I'm only saying that because of one questionable penalty. It was the offensive PI early in the game. It was like a little whip route and then like a up and go route. I forget the name of the terminology. But basically, the Browns, Ward, I think it was Ward and Emerson. Ward was kind of get caught up, and the Ward and Emerson kind of like ran into each other because of the whip route. And the receiver just kind of went running down the field. I think it was Rondale Moore went running down the field. He was wide open. They called offensive PI because the whip route, when he ran the route, he didn't even touch a Browns defender, but it was like the way he ran the route caused the Browns players to run into each other, and they couldn't go with the receiver going down the field. And for some reason, they called that PI. The announcers, they said maybe he kind of rubbed a defender, and that was kind of the way they want the play to set up, but it would cause offensive PI. But he didn't even touch a defender. I know I just rambled a lot there, but if you know football, let me know what you think about that play in the comments. Was that a PI or what the fuck happened there? Like, that was a play there where I think the Cardinals got absolutely robbed, where they could have went down, used some momentum there, and went and got a touchdown, but it is what it is. And then the other thing, which this goes for both teams, injuries were fucking over both teams. When I say injuries were fucking over both teams, I mean injuries were fucking the shit out of each other. Obviously, we already knew Kyler Murray wasn't going to be there. Then I think like not even halfway through the game, their right tackle went down. Then I want to say like 3 other defensive players went down. Then on special teams, I think twice a player went down for them. And then even the Browns, we had players going down. We had, I think, at one point, Denzel Ward, he had to go into the tent. We already knew Greg Newsome wasn't going to be playing this game. Hell, I'm pretty sure Jed Wills, he had to have the airbag put on his leg. He's already battling a foot and ankle injury, but now with the airbag on, it's not looking good. There was somebody on Twitter saying, oh shit, is this going to be an Achilles? Or oh shit, did he just break his ankle? I'm praying for the best. I'm praying nothing serious. I haven't heard info-wise at the time recording this what happened. I'm praying for the best. But now let's kind of wrap it up with this. Let's wrap it up with the offense. When it comes to the running the ball, they did good. I mean, it was a split load between everybody, and that's the thing I think people still keep on forgetting. They keep on saying, run the ball, run the ball. Here's the thing people aren't remembering. Look at these carries. 20 carries, 14 carries. We'll ignore Deshaun Watson's carries, but 3 carries. If Nick Chubb was the running back, take those 3 carries from Strong, run those up into Ford, 23 carries, and then take maybe 4 of those carries from Kareem Hunt, 27 carries, and then maybe 10 carries. That's kind of the split they would have if Chubb was still the back. But with Chubb not there and having to have like these 3 different running backs kind of be the workloads, I mean, you're still getting 113 rushing yards. Problem with that is, look at the average, 2.8 yards a carry. When Nick Chubb was the running back, you were getting about 3.5 to 4.5 yards a carry. All in all, I think both all the running backs, they did okay. That's what I'll say. They did okay. The receivers did good. David Njoku, he kind of had his like average stats. I'm still waiting for him to have a really, really good game. But he did good for the game. Amari Cooper, he did his thing. He went off 5 catches, 139 yards, touchdown. That deep ball that he had, holy shit! I'm surprised he hung on to that. When I saw Deshaun Watson throw that ball up, it was an amazing throw. Don't get me wrong. Deshaun Watson dropped a dime on that pass. But when Amari Cooper caught that ball between 2 defenders, holy shit. Going forward, I think, as I've been saying every single week, if Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper can have that kind of connection, this offense can be prolific. Now the last thing we need to discuss, Deshaun Watson. He went 19 to 30, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. That's a good sign. Only 1 sack, 107 passing rating. He's getting better. The problem is he's playing mid. Like, I know every single Browns fan is already saying, if we wanted this stat line, we would have just paid Baker. Like, I'm sorry, Deshaun Watson. Yes, we are winning now. Yes, we're doing good. Yes, we won the game with you. But the problem is, we could have had this stat line with Baker. With you, we want to see, especially with the way you look today and still put up 27 points, we want to see you putting up 41 points, putting up about 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and this here, 19 to 30, being maybe like 25 of 34. If you're a Browns fan, let me know if you agree with that in the comments. But we'll wrap it up with this. Looking over the team stats, penalties-wise, 6 penalties, 65 yards. Not the best, but we can clean those up in practice. Rushing the ball, like I said, 113 yards. Really good, even with Chubb not being there. But the big thing we'll kind of leave it off with is, like I said, that defense. 41 rushing yards. Passing yards, only 17 yards, because obviously they did have more than 17 passing yards. Look over here, 58 yards passing for Clayton Tune. But those sack yards, they bring it down quite a bit. When you allow barely over 50 yards total for the entire day, 58 yards total for the entire day, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble. It was just a straight ass kicking. Plus, you also ran all over them when it comes to the time of possession. You had the ball for 36 minutes, and they only had it 23 minutes. You dominated. But I'm gonna leave it off with this. Next week we do play Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens have been looking really, really good these past few weeks. They played the Detroit Lions, who we thought was a really good team. They kicked the snot out of them. They just played the Seahawks here this week. We just lost to the Seahawks last week. Remember, we almost beat them, but we couldn't just fucking run the ball. Instead, we decided to throw the ball, get a pick, ended up losing to the Seahawks. Yeah, the Ravens just beat the Seahawks by like 3 or 4 scores. So we got our hands full. If we can beat the Ravens next week, right now we're 5-3. The Steelers are 5-3. The Bengals, at the time recording this, the Bengals have not played the Bills yet. The Bengals are going to be playing them. If the Bengals beat the Bills, they'll be 5-3. Ravens, they are now 7-2. This division is going to be a fucking race to the finish, and I don't want to say it's anybody's game, but if we can beat the Ravens next week, we put ourselves in a great spot to fight for first place still. But other than that, that's all I got to discuss for today's video. Hopefully you guys did go on to enjoy today's video. If you did enjoy this whole entire video and you stayed to watch the entire thing, make sure you go ahead and drop a like. It's very much appreciated if you do so. If you're a Browns fan and you watched the entire today's video, like I said, thank you very much. And I missed a point in this video, maybe I missed something or missed a detail, got something wrong, and you want to go ahead and leave it down in the comment section down below, feel free to do so. Let me know kind of what your opinion was of the whole game, how it went. If you're a fan of the content that I am posting here and you're a Cleveland Browns fan and you like these kind of videos where I react to the Cleveland Browns games after every single game, and you want to go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button, feel free to do so, and do not forget to hit that little notification bell to be notified the second I post. But without further ado, this has been Dylan Talk Sports. Have a great day. Peace.